Kia ora, hello, my name's Kitty Fitton, this is Coast Access Radio and this is Ordinary Life. And I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a doctor, but I've been living with Parkinson's disease for the past 8 years. And it's a bit of a journey. And somebody that's been really, really helpful to me. And lots of other people in the Parkinson's community where I live is the amazing Kevin Ramshaw. And he's come along today to have a bit of a chat and just catch up. So hello, Kevin.
Hello, Kitty, and thank you for having me.
Oh, it's absolutely awesome because, yeah.
And thank you for that grand introduction. I'm not sure that's entirely merited, but anyway, I'll take it.
I think it is. You do an awful lot for people. You know, you've helped me a lot. And I know that you are very active in the Parkinson's community, or you have been. And would you like to tell us a little bit about?
I guess the start of it really was that my wife had Parkinson's, and you end up. She became involved in the local Parkinson's committee at the time, and people said, "Oh, you're a carer," and I kind of wondered, what is a carer? What is a carer? Because in those early years, Parkinson's was a nuisance, but not much more than that for her. And so I rather sort of thought that the role of a carer was to be simply vaguely sympathetic at occasional times. But of course, the role grew as time went on, and sadly, her Parkinson's journey ended. And the chair of the committee at that time sort of said, "Oh, Rose was on the committee, so now you are." And there I was.
I do remember, I met Kevin because you were the editor of the Parkinson's like little newsletter. And I remember you asked for feedback, and I was newly diagnosed and quite angry and sad and all the rest of it. And I remember writing to you, and you'd put a recipe in that Rose it was for lemon buns.
Lemon muffins.
Muffins. Sorry, it's my Yorkshire roots there. Lemon muffins, cupcakes. Alternative names are available. And I remember you'd said something like, my wife Rose used to really enjoy baking these. And I wrote to you and I said, I don't want to hear about people that can't do things anymore. And I don't want to hear about people. I want to hear about people that can still do stuff. And I was really cross. And then you came back and you said, that's my wife's recipe. And she's got Parkinson's. And I thought, oh. And I felt like such a terrible person. And then I realised I'm not actually a terrible person. But, yeah, it made me think an awful lot about, everybody's journey and everybody's contact and relations. And I bitterly regret that I never got to meet her.
I do too, because she would have loved you. She was a person who admired women who got up and did things, and she was one of those. She was an achiever and a fighter for women's rights, and so. Yeah, it was sad. But one of the things that struck me when you came back to me was, well, you're right, actually. You've got a point to make. And so I thought, I'll go back to you and just ask you for what you felt we needed to say. And you came back with some ideas, and in many respects where that set the tone. I'm still editing or still writing a newsletter for Parkinson's, and I'm still sort of following the kind of lead that you gave me all those years ago.
Well, I mean, it's for everybody really, because it's very, very difficult to get good information, I think. Especially in New Zealand. I know that Parkinson's New Zealand does a lot of good work and they do an amazing job. But sometimes it feels on a local level, when you're trying to just get by, it can be quite lonely and it can be quite hard. This is not controversial at all.
Well, when you're first diagnosed, it comes as a shock. and you wonder what's going to, because it's life changing. You wonder what's going to happen to your life. So you go through a whole range of different emotions, and you certainly did. Yeah, everybody reacts slightly differently, but I think that moment of diagnosis is a tough one, because the medical professionals, they don't tend to be all that sympathetic. They confirm that you've got it. And I know Rose went to see, she was referred from her GP to see a neurologist. And the neurologist said somewhat unsympathetically, what kind of house do you live in? And she said, oh, it's a 2-storied house. And he said, oh, you're going to have to sell that.
Oh, wow. Oh, my. Did he really?
He did, yes. He was apparently a very bright man, but a man without, to use that old word, a bedside manner. So she gave him another couple of chances and then changed him, swapped him for somebody who was a good deal more sympathetic.
I've done a few talks about being diagnosed with Parkinson's, and as you know, and I always talk about a box of tissues, and I say that when I was a little girl, I'd go to the doctor and there'd always be a box of tissues on the desk. And I said to my mum, what are they for? And she said, oh, they're for the people who get bad news. And I was like, oh, okay. I can't remember if I've told the story before. And then I went into the hospital for my results of the MRI that I'd had. And the neurologist says, oh, yeah, your MRI came back clear. So you've got Parkinson's. And I sat there, and cutting a long story short, I could feel myself starting to cry. And there were no tissues. Not a tissue in sight. And I was sat there thinking, hang on, this is my bad news moment. Where are the tissues? This guy has come to tell a 42-year-old woman with a young family that she's got a chronic, incurable condition. And there's not even a flipping tissue. That's just like, yeah, it's fascinating. Eh? They gave me a leaflet and sent me home. I mean, it's just like, go look at reputable websites. You're like, what does that even mean? Is this my aftercare?
Yeah. You don't get any sympathy from a website, really, do you?
No, you don't.
And in some ways, we were lucky then, because we had a Parkinson's nurse in Kapiti.
We did.
And Vanessa, who is coming back to the Kapiti area, albeit in Otaki.
You have to be careful now. She'll be getting mobbed if you say that.
In a different capacity, unfortunately. But never mind. She is coming back, which is good news. But the things that particularly Vanessa was good at was understanding the emotions that were going through your mind and body.
Yeah.
And helping.
Yeah, she was amazing at that. And I know, because we were lucky enough to have a local office, and I'd heard about Parkinson's New Zealand because I saw the office. Otherwise, I had no idea it even existed. Nobody told me. And I've heard of people being told, oh, you don't want to go join them because they're for the old people. Like, it's just those stereotypes just abound, eh? But she was. Well, I've spoken many times about the transformational effect that she had on me personally, because she was just outstanding, and without that help and support, I don't know what I would have done, genuinely, because it's horrible. you know.
Yes. Yeah. One of the things that we do as a sort of a local group is to have monthly meetings for people who want to come along and have a chat. They're not designed for providing medical assistance, although if somebody has a problem, what we tend to do is send a note to Parkinson's New Zealand or an email, and they get somebody to contact them.
It's nice to have those social connections, though, because I've got a couple of friends who are roughly my age, and one of them's got Parkinson's. And, well, it's the very lovely Emma. And, it's sometimes nice to be able to sit down and just have a bit of a pity fest, but then you don't really have a pity fest. You drag yourselves out of it. But, someone who understands that whole, I need you to understand I have Parkinson's, but I don't want you to help me, but I need you to recognise I've got it. But don't look at me like I'm a freak and it's so, yeah. Yeah, and you can sit and have a laugh about the irony that you don't want sympathy, but could you please recognise I'm sick?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I was on a training course this week. I did a training course for my new job. And while I was there, this person said, they were talking about diseases that people would die from. And they went, and of course, if someone has Parkinson's disease, I think it's fair to say they won't be around in about 24 months. And there was this silence. And I was like, hello? Hi? I said, are you sure about that comment? And they went, yes, it's a very serious disease. And I said, well, yeah, I know, because I've had it for 8 years. It was like dropping a bomb. and everyone else is like, what? And it's like, oh, I apologise. It's incredibly insensitive of me. And I was like, nah, it's all right. It's quite funny, really, isn't it? I'm still here, and I still will be in 2 years, I hope. But I also felt really sad because I thought we'd come so far, and yet still there's this thought that people are all old, elderly, male, brown cardigan, slippers, shuffling along. It's just not true.
No, well, it's not entirely true, because it is fair to say that there is a preponderance of older people get it. But,
absolutely.
And the other thing, of course, is that the trainer clearly didn't look at the website, because one of the things that people tell you that one of the few consoling things that you come home with, which Rosa came home with, was, well, I've got Parkinson's, but as everybody knows, you don't die from Parkinson's, you die with it, and that generally from something else, and that you can live a normal kind of life, or with the help of medication, which is something that everybody feels, well, that makes things slightly better anyway. Didn't want it in the first place, but now I've got it. At least that's some consolation.
Yeah, at least I've just got to kind of deal with it, eh? And there's some aspects of it I try and I don't look at, and maybe I should. I don't look at things like Parkinson's, dementia, and because I just find it quite scary, so I avoid that subject. And try and stay as fit and able as I can, which is not always easy. No,
but that's exactly the way to live life. And we talk about, it's interesting, I've got among my flock, as it were, I feel sometimes a bit like a pastor.
Oh,
and,
that's so sweet.
You could see me in Yorkshire, couldn't you? So the pastor.
I'm going to have to get you a crook now.
Pastor Kev.
Yeah. Pastor Kev.
I've got one of
Father Kevin.
Yeah, I've got two. They're both. You're an outstanding example of resilience that I often use. But these other two are male, and
I paid him well for this.
They're both very different. One of them is a former policeman, and again also from England, and he had this transformational moment, and he was going to police training college, and he was at Crewe railway station, and he walked along the platform, and there's a bookshop there. He went into the bookshop, and he thought he'd buy a book, and he didn't have much in his pocket. And he found this little book by a man called Basho, who is a Japanese haiku poet.
Oh, yeah.
And he opened up the book, and he read this poem, and the poem, I should have rehearsed it beforehand, so I probably can't remember it now, but it was summer grasses, all that remain of soldiers' dreams. And he thought, and it completely blew him away.
Yeah.
And so he harboured this away for many years. And then when he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, he started writing haiku poetry. And he found that helped his symptoms. And he was saying to me, we did a little, I recorded on my camera, my camera, some little interviews with him, and one of the things I asked him how people treated him when he was because he's quite he has a condition which I think is called dyskinesia,
move a lot.
which is involuntary movements, and so he was getting on a bus, and he said, I asked him, he said, the bus driver treated me as if I was an 8-year-old who'd lost his balloon, and so he then sort of apparently softened and helped him to a seat and didn't bother charging him, which he said was nice. But that's an example of how he's treated, and yet he's now sort of a significant figure in the haiku community, which is, and haiku is the most popular form of poetry in the world.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Now the other one I think is also amazing, and he's a man called Brent, and he got some publicity recently towards the beginning of the year. Brent used to operate a shop that sold tramping equipment in Wellington, and then he retired and came to Kapiti. And he lives in, he actually is in Horowhenua, so he's in Levin. But he still likes to go tramping, even though he's got his Parkinson's. And so he got his son to drop him off in the Tararuas early in the year.
As you do.
He said, I'll be out at such and such. Of course, he at that point, he still had his phone, and he rang his son some hours later to say that he was a bit disorientated and that...
That's not very good.
No, it's not good. So his son sort of alerted the authorities, and they kind of started a search.
For the uninitiated, the Tararuas are a mountain range that run down the lower North Island.
Correct.
Yes.
So after that, something happened to his pack, and his pack slid away, and he lost all his medication and his phone.
God.
And he's a man in his he's hard to say, but probably in his 60s, 70s or so. And so there he is in the Tararuas, and admittedly it's reasonably warm at night because it's still summertime. But they've got search and rescue things out looking for him all over the place. And on the third day, I think, his son had a premonition of where he might be and went and found him. And so his son gave him a sort of stern warning about where. And I saw him recently, and I said, "Are you still going tramping?" He said, "Oh yes, yeah, of course I am." Yeah.
Where had he been?
Oh, I think he just kind of found a place where he thought he was most likely to be found, and just stayed there, which was probably a sensible thing.
Yeah, so as an ex-scout leader, I know we always say you should never go off. Don't go tramping without all your equipment. You need to have what they call a personal alarm flare, or they call them an EPIRB. But you can borrow them, I believe, from some tramping outlets like hunting and fishing. They'll hire them out to you. Yeah. They're so useful.
Yeah, I'm sure that the family's
now
being fitted with one.
Oh yeah.
But to me, what it did show was his indomitable spirit, and he subsequently he spent some time in the hospital in Lavineria. Some days later, he decided he wanted fish and chips. So when the nurses weren't looking, he slipped out, walked down the road to get his fish and chips, and then they noticed he was missing, and then they were about to start search and rescue again, and then he walked with his fish and chips. But he got, of course, a stern telling off.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me of the time when my partner was in hospital, and there were pictures everywhere. No takeaways. He'd been in hospital for like 3 weeks, and it was his daughter's birthday. And one of the nurses went, "You could go get takeaway if you like." And we all ate curry in the family room. Yeah, just rebels. But no, I like that story because I think it's important to retain who you are, eh? People so easily fall into this trap of just being their illness.
Yes, and you were encouraged by the bus driver who just made assumptions about who this person was, and as I say, he was regarded as being treated like an 8-year-old who lost his balloon.
I've started having a little bit of mild dyskinesia, nothing major yet, but I can feel it a bit, and a couple of people have noticed it first thing in the morning. I go to a networking group on a Thursday morning, and somebody came up to me and said, "Is your back all right?" And I was like, "Yeah." They went, "Oh, I just noticed you were moving around. You looked like you were really uncomfortable." And I was like, Yeah, that'll be my Parkinson's. Didn't say anything. I just said, oh, I slept funny, because I didn't kind of want to tell them at the time. I did out myself last week, though, because of course it was World Parkinson's Day on the 11th of April. And I just happened to be giving a presentation on something completely unrelated. So I decided to link it to Michael J. Fox and World Parkinson's Day. Because, why not? All roads lead to Michael J. Fox. You can't talk about Parkinson's and not mention Michael J. Fox.
True enough, yes.
Yeah. And then we talked about the upcoming fundraiser that you've got on the 30th of April.
That's right. We when we got the idea, was the 11th of April's, that'd be a great day, but it's only so and so many days away. So maybe we could transfer it. We could push it out a little bit.
Kevin. Forward planning.
I'm not very good at it, Kitty. So we decided that the 30th of April would work. We go into Charles Fleming once a month because they've got quite a few people in there with Parkinson's, and we have a little session, and they give us morning tea, and they give us a little area to have a meeting, and they treat us very well. And they indicated that they'd be quite happy to help us with the function. So hence we've kind of partnered with them to have this function. And we were thinking about who should we have as a guest speaker. And we thought, well, could we get Michael J. Fox? And
that would be great, wouldn't it?
Send him a note.
I'm there.
He sent him a note, and he said, no. He said, why don't you go for Kitty?
Naturally.
So she was second on the list. Kitty was second on the list anyway. So
can't believe you went to Michael J. Fox first, man.
But for anybody who hasn't heard Kitty speak, then they should come along and hear her speak, because everybody who hears Kitty speak is just blown away by the way she uses Parkinson's and her life experience in an absolutely sort of way that has messages in it, but is clever and funny and informative.
That's very kind of you to say so. This is coming from the man who said, why don't you try stand-up comedy? And I said, absolutely not. He said, you have to try stand-up comedy. And I like, what I really admire about you is you've pushed me to do these crazy things. And then I end up having a much richer experience and a lot of fun along the way. So I have a lot to thank you for. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. That's Tuesday, the 30th of April. If you go to kittyfitton.com, you'll be able to see a link on there, and you can buy tickets. And that's from the 30th of April 2024. So if you're listening after this point, I'm sorry that it's already happened, but I'm sure it was really good. And you said locally in Carpety Horror Frenero that there's some groups that people can come along to?
Yeah, there are groups, and we have there's a Levin group that meets at the Masonic Cafe in Levin, obviously. And,
is that the Masonic Cafe?
At 10:30 on the first Thursday of the month.
When's that, the first Thursday?
First Thursday of the month.
Right.
Yep, and then I think the second or third Thursday, and I can't quite remember, Tuesday, sorry, there's a Carpety group that meets at Relish. There's a women's group that meet, I think, in the second Tuesday.
Is that so there's a group at Relish, and then there's a women's group as well?
Also at Relish, yep.
Right. Is there a men's group?
There's not, no. I'm not sure why, but...
Kevin, that's just... I'm appalled for the men.
I can say I've failed in that respect, anyway. There's also a carers group that meet on the third Wednesday, I think, at the Mediterranean, what used to be the Mediterranean Warehouse in Paraparaumu.
Excellent. So if somebody wants to find out more about any of these groups, is there anywhere that they can go or anyone they can contact?
If you go to Parkinson's New Zealand website and leave an inquiry there, then they will pass it on to us. That's probably the easiest way to do it. And when we don't have a website, maybe we should have a Facebook page. Maybe that's something to think about, but not sure.
And is there anything for younger people that maybe want to make contact or do anything?
Well, that's a harder one to do because often you meet during the day and younger people are still working. We have talked in the past about something for younger people, And I know that there would be an appetite for some kind of social function, perhaps early evening. But whether it would need to be a regular one or maybe if it was every 3 months or something like that.
That would be quite good, yeah. If anybody is interested in getting together with some young people, as in, because you're stuck at work during the day, like me, then if you contact me through the website kittyfitton.com, I will be able to maybe gauge opinion.
Yeah, that's good.
See.
Yeah.
Or through Cursed Access Radio. I'm sure that they would be very happy to pass on messages as well. I should really think this through more before I sit down and record things, eh? People have often said, "You're not very well thought out, Kitty." And I was like, "I'm sorry, it's all off the cuff." It's real people.
Spontaneity is the best form of communication.
Apparently so. If there was one thing that you wanted people to know about, because obviously you've got a really unique position because you had, you spent all those years with the lovely Rose, and is there anything that you've learned from that you wish people knew, or?
Well, the thing I suppose that there's 2 or 3 things that stand out for me. One of them is people have asked me, why do you do this? And it's not a hard question to answer, really. One of the things I've found is, the last person to ask me the question, we have a Thai lady who has Parkinson's, and we've started this in this last 6 months or so, table tennis for people with Parkinson's.
Oh, I keep meaning to go to that. It sounds great.
It is great, and it's now spreading through New Zealand, and it's a little revolutionary flame that we're lighting around. Ping pong Parkinson's, which is based on what happened. And there's big ping pong Parkinson's groups in England, in Scotland, and the United States, and in fact, there's a world championship. And we have set a goal.
Mate, I'm there.
We have set a goal to send a New Zealand representative to the World Championships in 2025. Now, whether we achieve it's another matter, but it's a goal.
Because don't they meet in Romati?
Yes, there's the hall. It's the what is it? The Uniting Church Hall in Weka Road in Raumati. It's on the first Wednesday of the month. And for and everybody is welcome there at midday. And we have a session. The club have people who stay back and they help us. We use their tables and they help us.
I'm going to have to go check that out.
Yeah, I think you'd be very welcome. And I'm sure. Yeah, and the thing about table tennis is that it is a sport that's uniquely suited to people with Parkinson's because it doesn't require huge physical effort, and it tests your coordination and makes your brain work.
I was saying, I imagine it can keep your brain active as well, which is really important.
Because you constantly have to judge where the ball's going to come, where the ball's going to go, where the ball's going, and it's bang, dum, 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 backwards and forwards. There's if you go walking, which is good. Your brain sort of says, "Okay, I think we've got the route sorted. I'll put you on autopilot for the next half an hour."
I went for a walk yesterday, and my leg doesn't always work very well now on the left-hand side, and which is why I am doing it, because I want to keep doing it. And it was hard work. I went for a walk the other day, and my leg was really playing up. And I did make it, but I went a bit further than I usually do. And when I got back, my partner was like, "Where on earth have you been?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, I went a bit farther than usual." But yeah, walking, I've found I have to think a lot more now. I remember the days of just going for a walk. Yes. Keep on fighting, eh? Keep on keeping on.
Just to go back to your question, I can't remember whether I managed to answer it. And that is, I get enormous satisfaction from what I do to help people.
Good.
And it's enormously satisfying. It's much more, it's much more satisfying to help people than it is to confront people. You get a lot more pleasure out of it. And there is a richness to our community. There's all sorts of people in our Parkinson's community, even though it's not all that large. But all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of interests, all sorts of interesting characters, and I find that rewarding and enriching.
That's true. I'm very, very glad that one day I did confront you, though, because it led to an amazing friendship. And I'm so grateful to you for everything you've done for me and for the community. And for that, I take my hat off to you, Kevin Ramshaw, because you are a star.
You're very kind. Yeah, so are you, of course.
Well, thank you very much for coming in. And that was Ordinary Life on Cast Access Radio.
This program was made with assistance from New Zealand On Air for radio broadcast and through the accessmedia.nz website. Thank you, New Zealand On Air.